Warmth in the frozen void, wind howled like something alive, something angry. Jasper Winters pressed his palm against the observatory window, watching the blizzard consume the mountain range below. Snow fell in thick, relentless sheets across Glycera Prime. The temperature outside had dropped to minus 70 degrees Celsius. Most people would have gone mad in this isolation. Jasper had come here precisely for that reason, to disappear into the silence. To let the cold numb everything he'd left behind on Earth. His research station was small, self-sufficient, built into the mountainside like a secret. Solar panels charged during the rare, clear days. Hydroponic gardens grew in the central chamber. Water came from the ice itself. He had everything he needed and nothing he didn't want. No noise, no expectations. No reminders of his brother's disappointment or his ex-wife's tears. Just the stars, the data, and the peaceful, crushing quiet. He'd been alone for 2 years. The sound came around midnight on what felt like any other night. Scratch. Soft. Almost tentative. Like something fragile dragging against the metal door. Jasper looked up from his workstation, frowning. The wind did strange things out here, created noises that seemed almost intelligent. But this was different. This was deliberate. He told himself it was nothing and returned to his research on stellar anomalies. The scratch came again. Longer this time. More insistent. Jasper stood, pulled on his thermal jacket, and moved to the entrance. His hand hesitated on the door release. Procedure said he should scan first. Procedure said he should be cautious. But something in that sound, something almost desperate, made him ignore procedure. He pressed the button. The door hissed open. Wind and snow exploded into the airlock, along with a cold so profound it stole his breath. Jasper stepped into the threshold, looked out into the white chaos. Nothing. Just the endless storm and the faint impression of something dark. Disappearing into the snow footprints, Jasper squinted against the blowing snow, trying to follow them with his eyes. But they disappeared almost immediately into the drifts. Something had been at his door. Something alive. Something that had scratched 3 times and then left. He went back inside, sealed the door, and stood in the airlock for a long moment, dripping snow melt onto the floor. His heart was racing. Out here, the only living things were him and the wildlife fan. The wildlife didn't knock the next night. Happened again. Scratch. Scratch. Just before midnight. Jasper was ready this time. He opened the door immediately, but again there was nothing to see. Only the storm and a single dark smudge in the snow that could have been anything. Impressions. Trails that led nowhere. He called out into the wind, but his voice was swallowed. He waited 10 minutes, then 20, shivering in the deadly cold. Nothing came back. The 3rd night, Jasper couldn't sleep. He sat in his observation chair watching the door, waiting. When the scratch finally came softer than before, almost weak, he was there in seconds. He opened the door and saw her. She fell forward, and he caught her without thinking. The first thing he registered was that she wasn't human. Her skin was a deep violet blue, luminescent even through the frost that covered her. Her fingers were too long, her ears subtly pointed. Ice clung to her long dark hair, making it brittle. Her lips were nearly black from cold. She was impossibly thin, and when he looked down at her feet, he saw they were bare, completely bare against the ice and snow. The second thing he registered was her eyes. Silver, like moonlight on water, and filled with something that looked like resignation. "Why didn't you leave me to die?" Her voice was rough, like stone scraping metal. But there was an accent underneath, something musical and strange. Jasper didn't answer. He simply carried her inside. He laid her on his bed and wrapped her in every blanket he owned. His hands moved quickly, efficiently, though his mind felt sluggish with shock. Alien. There was an alien woman dying. In his shelter, on a frozen planet in the middle of nowhere. The statistical improbability should have frozen him in place, but the survival instinct was stronger. He turned up the heater, brought hot water, and carefully began treating the frostbite on her feet and hands. Her skin was ice beneath his touch. He worked methodically, warming her hands in his own, applying medical gel to the blackened areas, murmuring soft things he didn't even realize he was saying. "You're safe now. You made it through. You're safe." She didn't respond. Her breathing had become shallow, almost imperceptible. Jasper sat beside her, monitoring her vitals with the medical scanner, terrified she would slip away before her body could recover. The fire crackled in the corner, casting dancing shadows across her alien features, even half frozen. There was something beautiful about her, something that made Jasper's chest feel strange. Hours passed. The storm raged outside. Inside, she slept, her breathing gradually becoming deeper, more stable. Jasper sat in his chair and watched her. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why had she scratched on his door instead of any of the other stations scattered across this planet? He knew there were at least 3 other research facilities within 50 kilometers. She must have passed them. The fact that she'd come to him last, that she'd chosen his door, meant something. Maybe she'd tried the others first. Maybe they'd turned her away. Maybe she was running from something. Jasper thought about her question. Why didn't you leave me to die? He'd spent 2 years running from connection, from responsibility, from the complications of caring about other people. He'd chosen this isolation specifically because it was simpler. No one could hurt him here. No one could disappoint him. No one could leave him, but looking at this strange, wounded woman breathing softly in his bed, Jasper realized something. The isolation hadn't healed him. It had just frozen him along with everything else. And when she'd scratched on his door, something inside him, something he'd thought was dead, had answered. "Because no one deserves to die alone," he whispered to her sleeping form. Especially not someone brave enough to keep asking for help. Her hand twitched slightly in her sleep, and her fingers almost brushed his. Jasper didn't pull away. For the first time in 2 years, he didn't want to be alone. For the first time since arriving on this frozen world, the cold outside felt less dangerous than the cold inside his own chest. And somehow, watching her breathe, Jasper felt the first small warmth of something he'd thought had frozen solid long ago. Hope. Vina woke on the 5th day with clarity in her silver eyes. Jasper was sitting by the observation window, reviewing stellar data on his tablet, pretending not to watch her. But when she stirred, he set everything aside and moved to her side instantly. "How are you feeling?" he asked, offering her a cup of warm broth. She sat up slowly. Her movements still careful, still bearing the memory of pain. Her violet-blue skin had regained some of its luminescence, though frostbite scars still marked her fingers and feet. She accepted the cup with both hands, as if afraid it might disappear. "Better," she said simply. Then, after a pause, "You haven't asked me who I am. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." Jasper sat on the edge of the bed, maintaining a respectful distance. "But I'd like to know. If you want to share?" Vina sipped the broth slowly, her eyes distant. "My name is Vina. I'm from the Allen Collective, a planet 7 light-years from here. I was enslaved." She said it matter-of-factly, but Jasper could see the pain flickering beneath her words. "My people were conquered 3 generations ago. We're bred for service, for obedience. Some of us are sold to other worlds as laborers or companions." Jasper's jaw tightened. "And you escaped?" "I stole a transport pod and crashed it here. My masters won't follow. The ransom on a runaway slave is far less than what they'd spend on a recovery mission in this system." She looked at him finally. "I was looking for any place they wouldn't look. Anywhere cold and empty I didn't expect to find." She trailed off, uncertain. "Someone?" Jasper offered gently. "A kindness," Vina finished. "Where I come from, kindness is weakness. Affection is forbidden. We're taught that connection makes us vulnerable. Every touch can be a punishment. Every word of warmth is a lie designed to break us." She set down the cup and looked at her scarred hands. "I scratched on your door because I was running out of time. I thought I would die anyway. I thought perhaps being rejected would be faster than freezing." Jasper felt something break open inside his chest. He wanted to touch her, but he held back, knowing touch carried its own weight for her. Instead, he said, "I'm Jasper, And I came here to escape too. Different reasons, same wound. I was running from people I loved because I thought love always ended in disappointment. I still believe that, sometimes. He paused. But you changed that. Over the next 2 weeks, as Vina recovered her strength, they fell into a rhythm that felt almost sacred. Jasper showed her the research station, room by room, explaining what each space meant to him. He took her to the observatory and showed her the nebula visible from their latitude, a swirl of pink and blue gas that seemed to pulse with life. It's beautiful, Vina breathed, her hand instinctively reaching out toward the glass. It's dying, Jasper said softly. All that beauty is the result of a star collapsing. Destruction and creation happening at the same time. Vina looked at him. Like everything alive then, he smiled. It was the most profound thing anyone had ever said to him in the evenings. They sat by the fireplace, the same fire that had once terrified Vina. She began to move closer to it, inch by inch, with Jasper beside her. He never pushed. He simply existed in the space beside her, breathing, present, non-threatening. One night, she gathered the courage to hold her hand near the flame. "It's not burning me," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "No," Jasper said, "because you control whether you get close or not. No one's forcing it on you. No one's forcing anything here." Vina turned to look at him, really look at him. Jasper was nothing like the human men she'd been told about: violent, predatory, selfish. He was quiet, thoughtful. He cooked for her with the same care he applied to his research. He made sure she had space but was always there if she needed him. He treated her like she was precious, not disposable. "Tell me about Earth," she asked one night as they ate dinner together at the small table near the window. Snow fell gently outside. The storm had finally broken. Jasper told her about the blue oceans and green forests, about cities filled with millions of people, and the loneliness that came from being surrounded by crowds, about his ex-wife who deserved someone who could stay, and his brother who deserved someone who could forgive, about the shame that had driven him to this frozen moon where no one could expect anything of him. "You're not what you think you are," Vina said, simply when he finished. "You're running from love because you're afraid of failing. But running away is its own kind of failure. You're hiding from the possibility of joy." It was so accurate it hurt. Jasper didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached out and gently took her scarred hand in his. "When did you become so wise?" "I read," she said. "Your library? You have thousands of books." "In 2 weeks, I've read more than I've read in my entire life. Books told me that humans could be beautiful. Your actions proved it." That night, Jasper knew he was in love with her. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a sudden revelation. It was quiet and inevitable, like the rotation of planets or the inevitable heat death of the universe. He loved her the way he loved the stars, with wonder, the understanding that he was witnessing something magnificent and temporary and true. He didn't tell her yet. Not because he was afraid, but because he wanted to give her time. She was still learning that the universe wasn't inherently cruel. She was still learning that warmth could be safe. On the 21st day, Vina asked if she could help with his research. Jasper taught her to read the stellar data to understand the patterns he'd been studying. She was brilliant, immediately grasping concepts that would have taken most people weeks to process. They worked late into the night, their shoulders almost touching as they pored over tablets and screens. "Why are you studying these stars?" she asked. "Because they're trying to tell us something," Jasper said. "All of them. If we listen carefully enough, we can understand the universe. We can understand our place in it." "What are they telling you?" Vina looked up at him. The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Jasper moved closer. His hand found hers on the table, and this time she didn't flinch. "They're telling me that the universe is beautiful because of contrast," he said softly. "Light needs darkness. Heat needs cold. Life needs connection." He took a breath. "Vina, I came here to escape feeling anything. But meeting you has made me realize that numbness is just another kind of death. You're the brightest thing I've ever seen, and I don't want to hide from that anymore." Vina's silver eyes widened. Her free hand came up to touch his face, a gesture that cost her enormous courage given everything she'd been through. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw with wonder, as if he were a discovery. On my world, she said, we have no word for what I feel when I look at you. The language doesn't have space for it. Because on my world, this feeling is forbidden. What do you call it in your heart? Jasper whispered. I don't know yet, she admitted. But I want to learn. I want to learn it with you. Jasper kissed her then, careful and gentle, asking permission with every movement. Vina kissed him back, and it was like two people emerging from hibernation, waking to discover the world was still alive. When they finally pulled apart, both were trembling. I love you, Jasper said. I'm terrified of it, but I do. I love you, Vina. I want you to stay. Not because you're running from something, but because you're running toward something. Toward me, toward us. Vina rested her forehead against his. I was told humans only take. That love is a weapon. But you're showing me that love is the only real survival. The only thing that makes life worth living. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. I choose you, Jasper Winters. I choose warmth. I choose us. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. Inside the small shelter, carved into the frozen mountain, two beings from different worlds had found something neither had dared to hope for, a home not made of walls or heat, but of trust, of presence, the radical act of choosing to love despite the risk. As the fire crackled and the wind sang outside, Jasper held Vina close, and for the first time in their separate lives, both of them felt truly warm. The storm had passed. The real journey was just beginning.